Hello, how are you? Well, I want to do a video today, again, of course, on the rapture. And before I start, I want to define what rapture is. Because, yes, we do not find that word in the Bible. Of course, many people see the title and say, wait a minute, rapture doesn't exist. I have it all the time. I have so many people giving me comments on my English or German channel telling me, oh no, rapture doesn't exist. And then people are saying, oh, pre-rapture. I mean, they're all confused. Pre-rapture, pre what? Pre-rapture? People need to look at the Bible first to get the timeline right. They are confused. I had one commenting, oh, you said earlier that this and this and that. And I'm thinking, no, I didn't say that. I don't change my mind. There is a secret rapture, but secret rapture is not in the Bible. People, you should know that. Okay? Matter of fact, the name rapture is not even in the Bible. Somebody made up the word secret rapture. But yes, this event could be is in secret. That I am talking about, that I call rapture. And I'm going to use the word rapture. And I know some people say, no, don't use the word rapture. Well, then they use the Greek word hapazo. But what's the difference? There is no difference between hapazo and rapture, or the German word Entrückung. Entrückung is the German word. And it's a translation from the word hapazo. The definition is that you pull out a person in a very fast way. Okay? They're pulled out. In other words, they are being taken alive. They're not dying, and their body is then transformed. You get that definition in 1 Thessalonians 4 and in 1 Corinthians 15. If you don't know the definition of hapazo, okay, please look that word up, hapazo. And the description, the hapazo of the saints. And the description is in 1 Corinthians 15 and 1 Thessalonians 4. Then when you go to 1 Thessalonians 5, it is described how it's going to happen. It's clearly described that it does happen in secret. In secret. And the world will not know it. Only the bride will know. Now the foolish virgins, they will realize what happened, but it will be too late. Those are the foolish virgins in Matthew 25. It will be too late for them. Those are the ones that are probably right now denying that there's a rapture. Maybe not. Maybe it's the people they know the rapture is coming, but they were not prepared with the Holy Spirit. I would think that the people that are denying the rapture right now, they will not know what happened. They will be in darkness. They will not acknowledge it. They will know that somebody is gone, but they're going to say, wait a minute, Jesus hasn't appeared in the sky yet for everybody to see. So, well, no, that could have not been the rapture. That's what people will say. Okay? No, that's not the second return of Christ. The second return of Christ, that's when Jesus appears in the sky. That's what they're saying. But they're confused about the timeline. I mean, radically confused. And I understand, because even Jesus wasn't clear about everything at the timeline of the end. He was very secretive about this taking out, this hapazo of the bride. And again, hapazo just means taken out alive in a twinkling of an eye, just snatched out. That's what it is. Snatched out, caught up. That's what rapture, rapturing means. Now, when they translated the Bible, people, they did not have that word. That word was not in existence, I think, over 100 years ago. So they used caught up. They were caught up in heaven. Okay? Caught up. That is the word. And yes, I can say they were caught up. That's a verb, if you know that, right? But then what is the noun of caught up? The catching up, or the catching up of the bride. I want to use rapture, and I'm using rapture because people understand what rapture is. Even the rapture denier should understand what rapture is. Maybe they don't. But rapture is when the bride is taken out fast. And they're taken out when as soon as Jesus returns. Now, what does that mean, return? When we see Jesus returning, he is usually in the clouds, appearing in the clouds, right? So that means that he is appearing the way he left. So the first thing that people recognize him in the clouds, that means this is when he enters this dimension. When Jesus left, okay, he disappeared in the clouds before the disciples. And so for hundreds, thousands of years, people thought, well, heaven is up there somewhere in the clouds. And that's why we have, people thinking that the dead people or the angels sit on the clouds playing harps. No. Okay? We know that's not true. Jesus went to a different dimension. It is not in this universe. If you know a little bit about Star Trek, and, they went all over, almost to the end of the universe or whatever. They couldn't find God, really. It's a sign telling you God is not found in this universe as this old man or something sitting on a throne. No. Heaven is not in this dimension. And we don't even know at this point how to get into the next dimension. They're trying. I would think this collider, great collider they have at CERN, that they're trying to open a gateway to the next dimension, if you are familiar with that. There are areas in this world where the veil between the two dimensions is very thin. People can believe they can go into this different dimension through meditation and other kinds of stuff. Okay? I don't know, because this dimension is different than here. So we could be really, really deceived to think we're in a different dimension. And really we're only deceived maybe through the fallen angels. So I want to warn you about that. We have no business in that other world because we would be like babies there. Okay? When we were babies, we came into this world in a human body. We were babies. We didn't know anything. We cried. We couldn't, judge things very well. We were helpless. When you go to the next dimension, it's the same way. You have to have Jesus there. And that is the only one, or an angel, true angel from God. And God does not want us to go there in the first place. Not until we die, and then Jesus will take care of us. So that's what this is. Jesus went into the clouds. They then, behind the clouds, supposedly they lost him. But what happened is he was snatched away or going into this other dimension. And this is what happens then when he comes back the same way. He will be seen in the clouds first because he's coming back from the other dimension. Okay? And the same thing with us. When we are snatched out, we're going to go directly to the New Jerusalem. The rooms he's building for us right now. Okay? I use the Hebrew wedding, traditional Hebrew wedding, to explain that. And there's a movie out called Before the Wrath. If you have a chance to watch it, watch it. I do not like the complete video because the ending is not correct. It's not biblical. The ending is not biblical. The beginning is very biblical, and you can find evidence in the Bible to prove that the Hebrew wedding is backed up biblically and is used by Jesus for his own wedding. Okay? So if you have a chance, watch that movie. I just came across it just recently. Okay? Again. And I watched it several years ago, and I made a video about it. So if you can find it, find it. But anyways, go there. I don't know if the people that made the movie are dispensationalists. They could be. Okay? They could be. But they believe in the snatching out of the bride, and they know that the wedding is symbolic for what Jesus is, how Jesus is enacting his wedding. Okay? And in that wedding, very nicely, Jesus makes, of course, a contract, and I talked about that before, with the bride, and then they're married. Then the bridegroom leaves, prepares a place for the bride, and then he will come back. And that is the day of the Lord. When he comes back, that's the very first thing he's going to do. He's going to pick up his bride. Then he takes his bride in the huppah, which are the rooms that he's preparing for her at the Father's house. Okay? And that is Mount Zion. If you go to Revelation 14 and you see the 144,000 on Mount Zion, and you read the definition, that is the first fruit that I've been talking about now. My last video before that, I talked about the first fruit. All these videos are connected. And all this information we don't get at the regular churches. Why? The regular churches are absolutely stuck in dispensationalism. And yes, you have all reasons to throw out dispensationalism. However, you cannot throw out many aspects of it. Like, for instance, the rapture, hapazo. Hapazo is described, it is an event when Jesus returns for his bride. Okay? It's the way it is. He's returning first. The resurrection will happen. That's the first thing. That's what he says. The resurrection will happen first. Then we who are still alive will be caught up with him in the air, which is the clouds. And my cat, again, has to go do his little jig. Get down. She has to do that little jig. That's right. So they are pulled out, and they are now in the New Jerusalem. You see that in Isaiah 26, 19 through 21. People, if you have not checked that out, you need to do it now. That's the event. Isaiah doesn't talk about the people that are still living when this event happens. He didn't see that. He just saw the resurrection. And then he says, or God says, go into your rooms, my people, and hide yourself from what? From the wrath. Until the wrath has passed. And that's what these rooms are for. Well, first there are rooms, of course, for the bride. That's where the bridegroom and the bride is going to live. It's their home. But it's also to hide them from the wrath that's coming. That's why this movie is called Before the Wrath. The only thing I have against the movie is the ending. Now, I don't like the ending. It's because they were saying that the whole wedding party is going into the huppah, into the wedding chambers. And then the door is being closed. No people. The regular people that are invited are actually sleeping when the bridegroom comes and picks up his bride. He goes inside the chuppah with the bride alone. Why? Because that's when they have intimate moments. And he comes out in Revelation 19, and his robe is dipped in blood because he had sexual intercourse. Of course, only symbolic, right? But that's symbol, okay, is used. Please read that in Revelation 14. I will not go there right now. I will not go there right now. Actually, I wanted to just really look at Luke today, 21, to show you where that event in Luke 21 happens, and Jesus did not mention it right there. Okay? He did not mention it in any of the gospel exactly when that event, the hapazo, is going to happen. Matter of fact, he never talked about hapazo. Okay? Paul was the one that was talking about it, and it was revealed to him, the hapazo. So that was after Jesus died. The Holy Spirit revealed to him about the church and about the hapazo. So it's interesting, a lot of people, that deny the hapazo, really, maybe are denying Paul and are not reading Paul very well. But again, telling you this introduction into this hapazo or rapture, it doesn't matter. It's just a word. I could call it ding dong if you want me to. I could call it whatever, freak show or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's a word. What's important that you know what the event is. And the event is called, in the Greek, Paul used hapazo. Okay? In the new days, since 100 years, they use the word rapture. Now, in the Bible translation, it's not used, that word's not used. They're using caught up. I know what the Bible says. And I can read it. And I'm not going to make any excuses, and I'm not going to misinterpret those areas in the Bible. I will refuse to do it. Why? Because I believe in Jesus' return for his bride. I am the bride. And I know Jesus has promised the bride to return and pick her up personally. People, in the Hebrew wedding, traditional wedding, or even today, who do you think is going to pick up the bride? For goodness sakes. You think he's going to send out really his servants to pick up the bride? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't make it quite. You know what? I'm delayed. I have a business appointment, so I'm going to send you, my dear bride. I'm going to send my personal friend to pick you up. Really? You think that the bridegroom has waited this long? Think about it. If you'd be the bridegroom, you wait and wait and wait for 2,000 years. Okay, for him it may be just a day or two. But what bridegroom is not excited to pick up his bride by himself? You don't think he's been waiting and preparing for this long? You think he's going to have a business arrangement so he is delayed? No. He is going to pick up his bride himself. There's no big deal anyways. He is snatching her out. Okay? He's just going to snatch her out anyways. Not a big deal. So, yeah, he's going to do it himself. And that is the event that happens first when the day of the Lord starts. See, people are confused about the day of the Lord too. How long is the day of the Lord? It's 1,000 years. Goodness sakes, how many things will happen? Quite a lot. So let's go now to Luke and pinpoint when that time is. Okay? Pinpoint it. How do I know when that day is, when the bride is being picked up? Do we know it? Yes. The bride is being picked up before the day of the Lord, or right at the beginning of the day of the Lord. That means in the Old Testament, it's clearly defined when the day of the Lord starts. The sun goes dark, the moon loses shine, and the stars fall from the sky, and what else? Let's read it. In Luke 21, let's go to 25. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. People will faint for terror, apprehensive of what is coming on the world. For the heavenly bodies will be shaken at that time. And then they continue to say, at that time, they will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with power and great glory. But we're not going to go there yet. Because what is it? We see the wrath of God. The wrath of God is in this world. That's the first thing that really happens, is the wrath of God. When the day of the Lord starts, the wrath of God is. That's what the Old Testament, as a matter of fact, that is most likely from the Old Testament. Joel, Isiah. Okay, you can actually figure that one out. But that's the first thing that will happen when the day of the Lord. How do I know the day of the Lord starts right there? Okay, because in Luke it is actually obvious. Okay, Matthew says there will be tribulation to the end, or at the end of the tribulation, the sun will go dark. Go there, Matthew 24:29. Luke is more precise. This is what he says. They will fall by the sword and will be taken as prisoners to all the nations. Now, what is he talking about here? This is a verse, half of the verse. He is talking about the destruction of the temple, because before 24, he describes all the signs that, Jesus did, that will happen before the destruction of the temple. And then the destruction of the temple, then he says they will fall by the sword and will be taken as prisoners to all nations. That was the result of the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple and Judea as a whole. Okay? And a lot of people got that wrong. They think, everything before 24 is about pre-tribulation or something, or pre-tribulation. It's a tribulation before the rapture. No. This is the tribulation. That's the great tribulation that started when Jesus died and ends when the bride is being picked up. The whole bride is going through tribulation. People, I am sorry if you are not going through tribulation, because that means that Satan is not attacking you. That means you're probably not saved either. Okay, that's all I can tell you. If you are true believers, you are being attacked by Satan all the time and his demons. And that is the great tribulation. And Jesus says clearly in Matthew, all will go through tribulation. And he says in Matthew 24:29, when the tribulation, or there will be tribulation to the end or something like that. You can read it yourself. But in Luke, he says, they will fall by the sword and will be taken as prisoners to all nations. When do you think that happens? That happens in 70 AD. Please do your research. Jerusalem will be trampled on by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. When is the times of the Gentiles fulfilled, people? Do you know that? You should know it. That is 2,000 years of the times of the Gentiles. There were 2,000 years of Hebrew time, and they ended 3.5 years after Jesus' death. That's when those 2,000 years ended. Approximately 2,000 years. Okay? Approximately. Then there were 2,000 years before the Hebrew time. Since Adam and Eve was kicked out of the Garden of Eden. That's pre-Hebrew time. That's the time of the, what do you call those people? The patriarchs, like Enoch, Methuselah, Noah, Adam. Those were all the patriarchs. That's 2,000 years until Abraham. And then starting with Abraham, another 2,000 years starts, section, approximately 2,000 years. And then after that, there will be another 2,000 years, and that is the time of the Gentiles. And that's what Jesus is talking about here. We are now in the times of the Gentiles. Why? Because the gospel right now is mainly in the hands of the Gentiles. It's not in the Hebrews' hands anymore. They have lost that privilege when they rejected Jesus. So now it's in the hands, the privilege is in the hands of the Gentiles. Not saying that the Hebrews cannot accept Jesus. In the opposite, we got a remnant always that will, of the Hebrews, of the Jews, that will accept Jesus. There's always a remnant. There's always somebody that will accept from the Jews, accept Jesus. Okay? A remnant. It's not very many. As a nation, they will not do it. They will not do it. Never. Okay? As a nation, they will not. They will reject him to the end. Just like as a nation, the whole human beings will reject him to the end. There's only a remnant, always a remnant, whether it's from the Jews, whether it's from the Gentiles. There's always only a remnant, small amount of people that will accept Jesus. Why? Because God is not making anybody. We all have to accept him freely. And we are human beings. It doesn't matter whether we're Jews or Gentiles. We're human beings. We are stubborn. We reject God. We have rejected him from the beginning. And it's only a few that will accept him and follow him. So this is what it is. The times of the Gentiles. We live now in the times of the Gentiles. When that time of the Gentiles is over, and that's then closes up 6,000 years of human history. And the 6,000 years of human history is symbolic for the 6 days in which God created the earth. 1 day with God is 1,000 years. So it's 6,000 years of human history. And when that history is over, our time, human history is over, our time, for human beings to choose. God will start the wrath. He will punish the ungodly. He will destroy the system that Satan started here on earth. If you are not familiar with my videos, please watch those videos. Okay? Because I have done the videos just recently about Satan establishing his kingdom here. Right after Jesus went into heaven, he was kicked out of heaven, and he started his system here. So far, we're living in this system, and it doesn't matter whether it's the United States or what it is. The United States has been taken over by Satan. And, of course, his instrument, the man of sin. The man of sin is here. Okay? If you're fooled, learn. The man of sin is here, has been here for 1,700 years. So, anyways, so now we get to finally to the place to say, where does the rapture happen? Okay, we know at the end of the time of the Gentile is over. That's the time of the tribulation, right? And when that ends, that is when Jesus picks up his bride. If you know Paul, okay, he tells you that. Until the last Gentile is come in, that is when the time for humankind is over. That is when the day of the Lord starts. And where is that? That is exactly in 29. Between 28 and 29 is when the rapture happens. Do your study. Again, look at Isaiah 26, 19 through 21. It tells you that the wrath of God comes, and before the wrath of God, the bride is going into the huppah, is into the rooms. It tells you there even in Isaiah clearly. And if you do a great study, you will find that over and over again in the Bible, that the bride is in the huppah, in the rooms. Again, Revelation 14, you see the bride in the New Jerusalem. Then the wrath of God starts. And we, of course, in Revelation, we see it twice. We see it in chapter 7 as well. Chapter 7, the multitude is in heaven. The one that came through great tribulation is in heaven. They came through great tribulation, all of them, all saints, people. And then in chapter 8 is when the wrath is described. Then it goes all the way to chapter 11, and then in 12, the whole thing starts all over. He's going to start describing again the end times. So you have actually the end times described at least twice. Okay? As a repetition. It's the two witnesses. The two witnesses that are telling you what's coming. So, but I'm not going there. I need to finish this. So here is where the rapture happens. And Jesus didn't say it. He didn't say it anywhere. Okay? Mark and Matthew didn't say it. Luke didn't know it either. I don't think any of the disciples. He will go back later, okay, and addresses the rapture. Okay? Where would it, let's see. I'm trying to find out where he talks about the rapture. And maybe it's just in Matthew. Matthew is talking about it. He says here, Luke says here in 28, when these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads because your redemption is drawing near. Now, is he talking about the destruction of the temple? Because that's what the disciples thought at that time, that when the destruction of the temple happens, Jesus will return. Or did Jesus talk about another event? Is he talking about when the sun goes dark and the moon loses its shine? That's what I think. Okay? Okay, it makes sense. Because he's not returning. We know at this point he's not returning. The disciples didn't know. Okay? So they had no idea how to arrange the things that Jesus said. It was confusing to them. Now, we know it. Because we know the destruction of the temple is not when Jesus returned. A lot of people want to say that. No, Jesus didn't return. There's actually people out there that think that Jesus already returned. That the rapture already happened. It's like, what? What kind of nonsense is that? You don't think the bride will know when the rapture, if the rapture happened? You don't think I can see Jesus that he's not here yet? He's not ruling this earth? Come on, please. You cannot see that Jesus is not ruling this earth. Like, who's ruling the earth? It's Satan. Okay? So I have to say that. No, he is not here yet. If you're one of those doubters, fine. I don't care. Just move on. Just move on. Stay with your own people. But anyway, so Jesus is not returning after the temple was destroyed. 2,000 years later. So what he's talking about here, the sun goes dark, the moon loses its shine, this is now saying when this happens, when this event happens, because that's the day of the Lord. Okay? That's the day of the Lord. When the day of the Lord starts, look up, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. So this is what he is saying. That when that happens, look up, because Jesus is returning. Now, why is he saying look up? I think he's not saying, oh, watch Jesus, he's going to be in heaven. Even though he's saying that earlier, because he will come in the sky, right? Yeah, because he says that at this time they will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with power and great glory. Okay? And then he says, when these things begin to happen, this is not the end. You look up and lift up your head, because your redemption is drawing near. That's at the beginning. Jesus will appear at the end in the clouds with his bride. In the beginning, he's not appearing. Nobody will see him. The only thing they will know is that people are gone. That's what they know. And they're going to be denying it. I think especially the rapture denier, they will deny it. They will say, no, we didn't see him in the sky yet. So, they're always worried. These rapture deniers are always saying, oh, they will, be deceived. The people that believe in the rapture, they will be deceived. No, why would I be deceived when I'm gone? I'm being snatched out in a twinkling of an eye in the middle of the night in secrecy. And I don't even know what will happen to me. And I'm supposed to be deceived? No, I'm not going to be deceived. It's the people that are left behind that are being deceived, because the government will tell them something different. They're the ones that are going to be deceived, because right now they're waiting for Jesus to appear in the sky, and they will not see him until the wrath of God has finished. Jesus is going to have the wrath of God here on earth first, and then he will appear. Okay? You see that more in Matthew, that the people see him and they are absolutely terrified. Why would they be terrified? Because they rejected him. They rejected him. Even the foolish virgins really were not ready. I would think they're terrified. But hey, I'm coming to an end. I know this is a long video. I'm trying to keep it low because my computer takes forever, or actually my internet takes forever to upload these videos. So I need to finish up. But I hope this has helped, and this is where the rapture happens. This catching up of the bride. That happens right there after verse 24. Okay? Before 25. That is when the rapture happens. Okay? Now, again, you can go to Matthew. Matthew writes more about the rapture. He's talking about two people, being in the field and one is taken, and two people grinding and one is taken. That is typical rapture. Okay? And so he's describing it there, but he's not placing it in the timeline correctly. Anyways, I've done a video about that too. If you want to go back and watch my videos. Coming to an end. Let the Holy Spirit guide you always.